Hey everybody, welcome back to the Joe Rockstar channel. You know, racing dirt bikes has been one of the most fulfilling extracurricular activities I've ever taken part in. If you love riding dirt bikes and you're ready to take it to the next level, then racing is a great way to get better fast. You'll meet amazing, like-minded people. You'll find strength and endurance that you probably didn't even know you had. You'll face adversity, and if you're up to it, you'll overcome it. Most of all, you'll have incredible amounts of fun and a lifetime of memories from these experiences. In this video, we'll be looking at some tips to get you started in off-road racing and how to get ready for your first event. As with most things, you can probably jump right in without a plan, but planning ahead can help you avoid some of the pitfalls and misunderstandings that put a damper on the overall experience. So by the end of this video, you should have a pretty good idea of what it's going to take to get into racing and how to get prepared for it.
To ensure you don't miss a single episode, subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell icon to receive a notification whenever a new video comes out. For the more serious rock stars out there, you can support the channel through my website at www.joerockstar.com. There you will find links to help keep the channel running via PayPal, Patreon, or purchasing Joe Rockstar gear like hats and t-shirts. First, we'll start with some bad news. Racing is an expensive undertaking. There are going to be expenses that come from obvious places, but there are also unexpected expenses. I will attempt to discuss the typical expenses you can expect to incur if you decide to take up racing. And the first thing I want to talk about are memberships. Race organizations, whether a non-profit organization or a for-profit organization, may have requirements to be a member in order to participate in their events. In addition, if the organization is sanctioned by the American Motorcyclists Association or the AMA, they will require membership with that organization as well. This may bother some people, but memberships in some of these organizations has benefits, especially the nonprofits. An example of a not-for-profit race organization is the Arizona Motorcycle Riders Association, or AMRA. They run the Arizona Off-Road State Championship Series, and I'll talk about these guys a lot. And in the interest of disclosure, most of my experiences with this group, I am also their media officer, and it is the race series that's featured in most of my videos. I tend to lean towards the non-profit organizations because the races aren't all about money. They're almost 100% always run by all volunteers who are passionate about racing and just want to put on a good race series. In many cases, non-profit organizations also advocate and actively lobby local and federal government for the rights of off-road riders and work to create, keep, and maintain legal trails for us to ride on.
And it's even got the club logo on it. How cool is that?
The AMA works for both on and off-road riders and even offers discounts for gear and roadside assistance. Now, I've had a bad experience with for-profit organizations, and I'm not a strong advocate. For-profit organizations seem to nickel and dime you to death, and the experience is always about generating profit, which can be felt in every aspect of the race, from disregard to rider safety to catering to the higher revenue generating classes and race types. I can't speak to all of them, and there may be some good ones out there, but this has generally been my experience. You should find out for yourself which you prefer. If you aren't sure where to start, you might want to check the internet for local off-road race organizations and clubs. When I first decided to give racing a try, I found AMRA on Google, though the AMA website is also a good place to start. So in my opinion, an AMA yearly membership is worth it and it's inexpensive. It can be obtained online and in many cases at the event. The AMA is an excellent resource to find local race series and clubs as well. Last year, in order to race, I paid membership fees to the AMA, AMRA, and to my club TRS. Now in AMRA, you don't have to belong to a specific club to race, but clubs can be a great resource. And for AMRA, club membership also gives you an additional 50 points in the series points battle. Now if you don't care about points races, then you can expect to pay about $74 in membership fees to race here in Arizona. Now, on top of membership fees, each event has an entry fee. From one organization to another organization, race fees can vary wildly. The usual rate in the AMRA series is between $65 and $75 per big bike entry and about $35 for kids on mini bikes. For other series, I've paid over $100 to enter a single race, so this is a pretty good deal. And in most cases, you get a discount if you register early online, what most organizations call pre-registration or pre-entry. And just as a side note, registering online beats registering at the event. Registering at the event will take longer, and because they can be in remote areas with no internet access, you need to remember to bring cash, and if you forget, it can be a long drive into town to get some cash. For almost any race series, you will also need to rent or buy some form of tracking device that electronically scores you as you pass through the scoring gate. For AMRA, we use an RFID type sticker that goes on your helmet, and it costs about $10, and it can last as long as your helmet does. I've raced several different types of events that require a device, which was either rented or sold from anywhere from $5 to $20. Now, there are some conspiracy theories going around that these transponders could somehow read our minds. But I don't subscribe to conspiracy theories. Lastly, you got to be prepared to pay to camp or park at the race venue. Some places charge a per person rate or by the carload or both. For AMRA, it's never usually more than $10 and rarely exceeds $25, but you'll have to remember to have cash on hand for this one. Okay, so let's talk about some other race-related expenses like maintenance. Obviously, you need a bike, and you're going to have to maintain it. The AMA and most race organizations require that your bike pass a technical inspection.
Bikes are inspected to ensure that they're not a danger to yourself, other riders, or the environment.
Typically, this consists of a quick visual inspection and a sound check to ensure that the bike's not too loud, and, depending on the location, a spark arrestor check to ensure that your bike has a Forest Department approved spark arrestor. It is a good idea to get a spark arrestor for your bike if you don't have one. While it's not always required, it sucks to not have one when you need it to pass tech inspection. You also should get some spare levers, tubes, tires, etc. Think like a Boy Scout in Murphy's Law. If it can go wrong, be prepared. You're also going to need your riding gear. You're going to need boots, goggles, helmets, and gloves at the minimum, but you should probably get a full set of protective MX style gear. And don't forget a hydration pack. Now this brings us to our first ever Joe Rockstar channel sponsor tip, brought to you by A Select Tile and Dan Lutz. Now to save a couple of bucks, you should look for used stuff online. Also, you can look to the race community itself to find deals on used or extra gear, parts, services, and even bikes that are for sale cheap. Many people are just happy to help out another racer as well. Look to some of those social media groups that are related to the race series that you plan on racing in and see if you can become a member, and just put it out there that you're looking for something. I guarantee that somebody's going to help you out. Okay, so this next expense is sometimes overlooked a lot. For a lot of us, racing means long road trips to get to venues, overnight camping, and all that takes its toll on your wallet. Be prepared to cover gas, which if you're towing a trailer can be pretty steep, and you're going to need food. Now, a lot of these race venues can be pretty remote, and you'll want to bring along some food and the means to cook and prepare it. For a weekend, food can be inexpensive if you shop smart. Now, I buy the manager's specials in the meat department and freeze them till race day. They still got a little tread on them and they taste great. I have to emphasize, though, that you need to freeze them right away. Letting them sit for a day is rolling the dice if you ask me. Now this brings us to our second Joe Rockstar sponsor tip of the day, brought to you by SP Suspension out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Look for people that might be interested in carpooling and splitting costs. The racing community is full of incredibly generous and friendly people, despite the big bad dirt biker image. Being a part of this community is a huge part of what makes racing so rewarding. So gas and food is the last thing on my list of expenses, but it's definitely not the last expense you're going to experience. In a nutshell, racing is in no way inexpensive or cheap, but in the end, you'll probably feel like it's worth it. If you're on a budget and you're trying to compete in an entire series, you might need some sponsors. But a single race here and there is easily managed for most people. So if you're still here and the cost hasn't scared you away, then the next step for you is to find a series and sign up. Now you're kind of on your own here because no two series have the exact same sign-up process. However, I'm sure that they all have contact information on their websites for someone who can walk you through the process. If you're here in Arizona, go to www.amraracing.com/getting started. Click and follow the steps for getting started, and no matter how tempting, do not skip reading the rulebook. If you do not know what class to start out in, start in the sportsman class. If you have a good amount of riding experience and you're pretty confident in most terrain, then enter the intermediate class. Now, if you're still learning how to ride, the C class is perfect. And if you're constantly pinning it and waiting for everyone else to catch up, well, I'm not sure what you're doing watching this video, but try the A class. Whatever you do, don't race in a class that's not challenging for your level of skill. It's not fair to the other riders in the class, and it's the reason that most people get called sandbaggers. Now, classes are further broken down by divisions. There's divisions based on age, there's a youth and a women's division, and there are also divisions based on engine size. Now, it's your responsibility to select the correct class and display the proper background, number, and letter combination for that class. Once you're signed up, it's time to start getting ready for your first race. And this brings us to our third sponsored tip from Roost Motorsports, the guys who make those awesome goggles that I've been wearing. Don't be lost in the sauce. Know what's going on. Hopefully you've read well in advance of your first event the AMA rules, any race organization's supplemental rules, and any rider information that's been provided on a flyer or via other communications like email. If you have, then you're on the right track. If there are parts that you do not understand, you should ask people that are in the appropriate position to explain it. If not, you have no one to blame but yourself if you find yourself confused about the rules, the format, or why you couldn't get through tech inspection without a spark arrestor. Of course, not every situation is covered, and there's always going to be exceptions. But what you should focus on is being as prepared as you can. And quite honestly, for our series and the AMA, the rulebooks are pretty slim. They aren't page turners, but you can get through them with very little effort. Next, you should start working out in the days leading to the race. If you aren't in good shape, you're going to regret it. At least consider some form of training and diet, be it riding a few hours a week and skipping some carbs and dessert, or a full-on diet and exercise regime. Now, this is the part that I really suck at, so I'm not going to try to tell you how to work out, practice your riding techniques, and eat healthy. Instead, I'll just say that you should really invest some time and attention into these things.
If you ask me, riding the dirt bike's the easy part. It was riding it while you're exhausted. That's hard.
Learning to ride using less effort while increasing your endurance through exercise and diet are probably the biggest keys to performing well in a race.
It's time for a break. Where's the sandwiches? You can't put a bunch of overweight, out of shape, old guys on this stuff, man.
A good rider who is out of shape, can't breathe, can't stand up, and has to stop for breaks after an hour of racing can easily be beaten by a less skilled rider who's in shape and has sound fundamentals in their riding techniques. Now, this should go without saying, but I've been a victim of this myself. You have to make sure that your bike is ready. Clean your gear and your bike and inspect them for proper function. Make sure nothing needs repairs. At the very least, make sure you have a fresh oil change, good tires and tubes, and a clean oiled air filter. Last but not least, make sure you have a proper number plate on your bike as required by the race format and the race organization. Now, professional graphics can take from 1 to several weeks to get made and delivered, so order them well in advance, or just use colored duct tape for a temporary solution. It doesn't have to be pretty, it just needs to be readable. And it really sucks to be trying to get this done right before the race starts, so you definitely want to do this stuff in advance. Next, it amazes me to this day how many times I can forget the most basic things like clean underwear. The next thing you need to do is create a packing list. When I first started, I would always overpack. Extra food, all-weather clothing options, pillows, sleeping bags, blankets, every tool that I owned, and enough chairs for a small wedding. For each person, this is going to be different based on the level of comfort that you're willing to sacrifice at a race, but the bare minimum is always going to be the following items: helmets, gloves, boots, goggles, water, dirt bike, fuel, your AMA card, and some cash. Now, when it comes to comfort, I'm a sissy, and if I had my way, I would have every creature comfort from home with me at every race, and I really envy the guys with nice toy haulers. I don't envy the price, though. Now, I've gone through various incarnations of camping equipment, starting with a tent all the way up to a small cargo trailer, and now I'm actually using a modified cargo trailer with a portable toilet and a bed, which suits me very nicely. It's not anywhere near as nice as a proper toy hauler, but I keep it stocked with camping equipment, clothes, and dry goods, so I have very little packing to do before the race. It's warm, and it was worth every penny during the rainy events last season.
It's 3 in the morning, and it's been raining since like 12:45.
If you have the means, I highly recommend this. Even a small enclosed trailer like the one I used to use is a huge step up from sleeping on the ground or in a truck. Camping with family and friends will become a huge part of racing, and it's made so much better when it's comfortable and easy.
Good night, YouTube.
The last thing I will say about packing is that you should keep a list with you in your vehicle even at the event, so you can check to make sure that you pack it all back up when it's time to go home. No one wants to get home only to find that they left their very expensive helmet sitting on a rock back at the venue.
That's a wrap.
Okay, so all that's left to do is get on the road and head out to the venue. Well, that's it for now, and this video is getting much longer than I planned. If any of you have any extra tips out there to offer, or you have questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. This will not be the last video about getting into racing. We're going to talk about the different formats in future videos, and I also plan on releasing a video soon on what to expect at the races, because there's nothing like showing up and having that new kid in school feeling. Thankfully, I got the inside scoop to navigate the scary pre-race routine. We'll cover what needs to happen and where you need to go, what you need to know, and how to get help when things aren't going the way that you planned or expected. So subscribe to the channel and don't forget to hit the like button. Please feel free to comment and share this video, and by all means, like I said before, if you have questions that I didn't cover, use the comment section to ask. If you're a journeyman racer with some tips that you think might help people out, please drop them in the comment section as well. So one thing you guys can count on overall when it comes to racing is that almost anyone you meet that is into racing will just about bend over backwards to help a fellow rider get into the racing scene. That being said, don't hesitate to introduce yourself and let people know who you are when you're new to the scene. And if you come out to an AMRA race, please come and say hi. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the races.